What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news and updates. Of course, we're going into the very final couple of weeks before the final shape drops. So the conversation about the expansion and the upcoming episode content will continue. However, today Bungie also talk a little bit about season content, updates to the game this week, they cover known issues and bugs, and some very final changes for Into the Light content. Plus, they tease additional weapon updates that we'll see a little bit later on in the year, as well as talking about 0-hour difficulty. There are even some minor leaks for final shape content, so we got a couple of teasers there with a spoiler warning, and a few other things to round up in the video today. So, as always guys, I hope you find this one interesting, and if you do, a rating below really does help us out, but without further delay, let's get into it. And we'll start out with some updates from Bungie about the game at the moment. They did say we've been investigating an issue where players can receive invites that result in a pony error code. And while we work on a permanent fix, we recommend turning off friend and clan requests in your settings under the social area and setting Fireteam invites to friends only, or whatever you prefer. And they add that they're working to resolve this issue as soon as possible. So it's one of those, a lot of players will probably not encounter it, but there have been some folks intentionally sending invites to disrupt other players' games. So it's worth keeping that in mind in case you are affected. Otherwise, the D2 team also said in the update that we had this Tuesday, they've reduced the required number of triumphs needed to earn the Brave title from 10 to 9. And the title will still have 10 available triumphs, but you can just choose which 9 you'd like to complete. And they say the reason for this is that they felt the Breaking the Charge triumph wasn't quite hitting the difficulty mark as intended, and it required either full clears on Legend over multiple weeks, or full clears on Normal that relied on RNG. So they're hopeful that this will improve the experience for those looking to earn the Brave title. So for any folks that want to get that perhaps have been limited by that triumph requirement, with us having just a bit less than 2 weeks until the final shape, it at least does open up the possibility of more players earning that title, so keep that in mind. But another quick update here, and following the weapon tuning preview that Bungie gave us last week, there was some conversation about the Avalanche machine gun for the Dawning, and it not having the most desirable stats, so the D2 team said we will be taking a look at Avalanche's stats for the next Dawning event, and of course we can expect a new Dawning weapon as well as updates to older weapons, so I guess at least we have confirmation of that, and confirmation that the Dawning is intended to return this year. Bungie hadn't indicated otherwise, but given that they're switching up the content format, who knows, maybe that's a useful piece of information, so share your thoughts below. In relation to Into the Light content though, and the 0-hour mission, Bungie did reply to a thread on the official forums and clarified that the challenging nature of the mission, even on normal difficulty, is intentional. So they said if you encounter enemies that are 1830 power level, it's not a bug, and that was meant to be that way. And they finished by saying the mission, even on normal, isn't intended to be easy. So that clarifies that, I suppose. I guess as well there's a component where the Whisper mission when it returned is relatively easy to do. And depending on modifiers and things like that, Legend Whisper is probably easier than normal 0-hour. So I can appreciate why some folks are sort of surprised that the normal version is difficult. Nonetheless, that's Bungie's response to the issue, so give us your thoughts on it in the comment section. And next up, Bungie give us an update regarding previews for the final shape changes that we're going to see this week. And it turns out there is a significant amount of info that Bungie plan to give us. So they've said we've been preparing a preview article for the abilities and armor tuning coming with the final shape. And with so many changes to cover, this was one of the largest articles we've ever written at around 9,000 words. So we've decided to split it up, and here's what to expect this week. Firstly, the abilities tuning preview will cover updates to all light and darkness subclasses in final shape, and it'll be released this Wednesday at 10 AM Pacific time, so that's today at the daily reset time. Then beyond that, the exotic armor tuning preview will come out at Thursday. Once again, that'll be at 10 AM Pacific, and This Week in Destiny will follow at 11 AM Pacific as usual. And on top of the exotic armor tuning preview, they say we have a full TWID lined up too, so we don't know exactly what the TWID will cover, but it's also likely to be a juicy one, so a lot of details coming in the next couple of days. And if you want to stay up to date with all of that, be sure to keep posted here on the channel. Otherwise, in game, of course, this reset was a pretty lively one as well. And one of the unique components is the season finale for season 23, which included the mission Closer to the Heart, which is actually a pretty cool mission, where we head back to the Black Garden, some of the areas from the Star-Crossed mission. But ultimately, it takes us to the boss room, where we fight a simulation of the final Black Garden mission from Destiny 1, which was actually a pretty fun mission to do, and it's a cool concept for the mission structure. At the end of that though, of course, we got the new cutscene for the end of the season, and I won't spoil that just in case some of you haven't done it yet, but safe to say it's a very cool one. And versus other season finales, I guess it actually sets up the beginning of the final shape reasonably well. So if you haven't played that yet, I totally recommend checking it out, and let us know any thoughts on it that you have in the comment section. But the last thing to mention here, of course, Bungie revealed even more new exotic armor pieces coming for the final shape, and it essentially confirms that there will be 3 armor pieces at the very least for each class in the expansion. So the new ones include the Speaker's Sight, which is a new Warlock helmet, and it is literally the Speaker's mask there, so that's awesome. Then there are these new cool boots for the Hunter, called the Balance of Power, and finally the Titans get the Wishful Ignorance, which looks like a strand set of gauntlets there. So those are the new ones. Bungie don't give us any further detail on what the perks and things like that will be, but of course these are on top of the other ones that Bungie have already revealed, and that includes the 3 different chest pieces for the Warlock, Hunter, and the Titan. But separate from those, we do also know that we're getting 3 exotic class items, 1 for each class, and they'll start rolling out in the first week of the Echoes episode. So that'll be some of the most exotic armor that we've actually seen in an expansion, which is pretty awesome. And additionally, Bungie provide images in better detail for the weapons that we're seeing for the final shape. Bungie spoke about Red Death back in the reveal for the expansion. We haven't had a preview of that one yet, so we'll have to wait and see, but we do get a nice image of the Golden Gun sniper rifle here, as well as the heavy trace rifle, and finally the Kvostov. So if we include Red Death in that list, as well as a raid exotic, that's at least 5 exotic weapons. There will probably be more based on what we've seen so far. And with the armor pieces that we've had revealed, that is at least 14 exotics for the final shape. So in itself, that is a positive component, and let us know your thoughts in the comment section. A very final mention though, and the game post shared that the final shape soundtrack has been listed online, and this is via the American Society of Composers and Publishers, with the database updated to include the new track titles. So while we don't actually have the opportunity to hear it yet, of course titles for soundtracks can potentially contain spoilers or teasers for some of the things we might see. So keep that in mind. Here is the track listing. There's very much expected stuff like The Final Shape or The Pale Heart, and then potentially more spoilery stuff like The Herald of Finality, that could be a boss name, Paracausal Mutilation, Prince of Devotion, Salvation's Ruin, and a bunch of other interesting titles. So obviously you might get the imagination going, not a crazy spoiler overall, but interesting to take a look at, and I'll link the full game post article down below. However, for today guys, that is everything we have to speak about in this video. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, a rating below really does help us out on the channel. Also be sure to get subscribed and give us your thoughts on any of the items we've spoken about down in the comment section. For today though, I very much appreciate you tuning in, and I will catch you all very soon.